Steve, my man, how's things? How are you keeping?
I'm going well, man. I'm sorry I'm in the truck. I'm kind of out and about right now doing some errands last minute on my schedule. I messed up on my own end.
Definitely. And listen, we have to mention, Steve, when it comes to merch, because I wanted to get this right at the start. We have brand new merch. I always talk about merch at the end, but merch, brand new T-shirt out. You know what I mean? It's available right now on the TNA merch store. Steve Maclin, you've always had nice T-shirts over the years, but let's talk front toward enemy, the brand new shirt Maclin. Did you see that yet? Yeah.
Oh yeah, no, that's been out for a while. We have the bulletproof one that's out now. That's the brand new one. They put the front toward enemy one out the other day. I think just because of for Veterans Day, just because for me, front towards enemy, it's my homage towards my unit that I was with 2nd Battalion, 8th Marines, and being Veterans Day, I just thought it was a good way to promote again, and also just help vets out there.
Definitely. And look, Veterans Day, that's something we've seen. We obviously seen the in-ring segment. Obviously, that's important to you, obviously being a US Marine in the past. Tough gig, my man. And look, that's something that's quite serious.
It's different for me to kind of come out and open up a little bit. That's the challenge for me, is to open up that way personally towards a crowd. But to be in attendance with a lot of other veterans, it made it a little bit easier for me and not get too emotional. But it meant a lot in the world to go out there and let everybody know that for the veterans that are out there, for me and the whole locker room in TNA, just to thank them for the day and for what they do and the sacrifice that they make so that we can live this life we do. I get to be a big kid in my underwear every day.
Definitely. And look, it's much appreciated. Being an Irishman, I know that's not an easy gig, and props where it's due, Steve. It's something that we talked about in the past. But let's talk TNA right now. And look, Eric Young, Jonathan Gresham, and yourself. Obviously, you've been quite busy at the moment. Facing some top opposition. But what's it like working with Jonathan and of course Eric, two great guys?
Two great guys, two great minds for the business. Gresham, to me, is one of the, should be in the talk of top 5 talents in the world for just his mind and his abilities alone and what he can do and he makes things that are different seem normal, if that makes sense. And then EY, just for the experience and for how long I've known him, and he's kind of like the big brother to me in a way, and it's just it's awesome to work with both of them.
Definitely. And like you faced off against Eric not so long ago, so obviously you know what he's like to face against. But listen, what he's like, people say veteran, like Eric has many good years left in him, but like what a guy Eric Young is. He's some ambassador for TNA and a great guy to have in the locker room.
No, it's awesome to still have EY in the locker room, and for the ability that he has now, still going and kicking. He's still a young kid,
Yeah.
jokingly. But for us having our scrap back then, just like you guys would in a pub, just two guys had a miscommunication. We had to handle our deal, and then here we are as a tag team. So,
We love it. We must say. And look, we have to speak of yourself. Obviously, look, it's been a great year for you. You're very active. You know what I mean? We want to see that world title around that waist again. But, 2025 is going to be another big year. And we mentioned, bookings. We need to see more of you in Europe. Europe is a place that's calling for Steve Maclin and Ireland especially. But listen, it's going to happen, surely.
oh, I hope to get over there. It's part of a tour that I would love to do for a while. If I come over there, I would love to actually just be there for a month or two total if I could. That'd be amazing to just do a complete tour of that. But that's also on the promotions over there that wanna get me over there, especially with TNA hopefully coming over there in the new year as well.
Definitely. And look, we speak of TNA and European tours. Now we don't get them as frequent as we want, but obviously a TNA European tour is needed. The demand is there, Stephen. Look, you'd love to be part of that.
I think everybody in the UK would love having me over there in Europe alone. Just I'm excited because I've said it in many interviews before that the crowd is way different over in Europe than it is compared to the States on how you guys do things and play. So it's fun because it's a new challenge for us. And it's also just a breath of fresh air to just, oh, okay, people in a different, just, you get a different feel.
Yeah, no, definitely do. And it's just something about the Irish and the Europeans in the UK. We are a different gravy. There's no doubt about it. But listen, you've set many goals. We had a great chat a year and a half ago, and look, a lot's happened since then. But obviously, we have to talk to TNA World Heavyweight Title. Nic Nemeth has that belt at the moment, but it's always in your sight, Steve. That belt is always in sight for you, and look, it's something that you really want again.
Yeah, no, I say it all the time. If you're not in this business to be the world champion, then what are you doing? But right now I'm having my problems with Josh Alexander in the Northern Armory. That's what I'm taking care of. And once kind of I can finish that beef there with that and then take care of those evil Canadians, I can move back on to the world title.
Definitely. And look, we mentioned Josh. We spoke about him in the last interview. Not a great guy, you know, pound for pound wrestling star, just like yourself. Obviously, you love the battles with Josh. He brings the best out of you. And look, it's only good for all the wrestling fans to see you guys lock horns every blue moon.
And it's fun because we do bring the best out of each other and we challenge each other. Us kind of behind the scenes, we've become very good friends. Obviously, we have our miscommunications and misunderstandings of what we're seeing right now and the way it's unfolding on television. But it's fun to test each other and it's fun to challenge each other and to see who is the better man.
Definitely. And look, what a place to be right now, TNA. You know, it's always trending. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram. Really good environment since January 2024. Obviously, the name change back to TNA was epic, but you're loving life at TNA right now. And that locker room must be a really good place and environment to be in.
Yeah, it's a very good place, very hungry locker room. If anything, they're hungrier now just for what we're seeing with these crowd growths and getting these bigger venues. And now with Genesis coming up in January on the TNA Plus app, and the app itself is just starting to pick up itself too with subscribers, and that's what we're trying to get out there is get more eyes on the product. With being on Access Television, it's not very easy for people to get in the States. I know in the Canada it's pretty good, but then we're also on DAZN over in the UK and over in Europe in general. But the app is what we've been trying to push and get more eyes on, and I think that's been a testament to what the locker room has been doing and showing out, and the crowds have been showing that too.
Definitely. And Steve, why is it so different in that locker room? Because look, we look at maybe the freedom. Obviously, look, you guys get to do a bit extra outside of TNA. That's obviously important. And look, it's a good schedule. You know, it's not as hectic, even though it's very hectic. But it must be very good. You know what I mean, to be in an environment like that. And obviously, you know what I mean, you could do other stuff outside of TNA, which is great.
It's just fun. It's pro wrestling, and I feel it's the way pro wrestling's supposed to be for how the show is, and then for how the locker room is, and for the flexibility we have. Especially me, I love going on the independents, working shows, just because it allows me to try to perfect my craft and try new things, see what people are liking nowadays, and then also see new talent that's out there to possibly work with in the future, and that could come to TNA or even that I might see down the road, whether it be WWE or AEW.
I'm glad you mentioned that because obviously, look, we had a little prediction there a few weeks back about WWE and the Royal Rumble. Obviously, things trend, but we'd like to see yourself, Joe Hendry and Josh Alexander make appearances at the Royal Rumble early next year. Is that something you'd be up for, you know, to appear at the Royal Rumble?
If they give me the call, I would love that opportunity. And especially being in the Royal Rumble, that was my favorite thing growing up as a kid. That was my favorite pay-per-view of the year. So that would be an ultimate goal and an ultimate dream.
Definitely. What is your thoughts on Joe Hendry? Look, obviously he makes a lot of noise. You know, he's a very, very interesting guy. But obviously, look, you have to give the guy props.
No, I give him props. And he's a very talented and he's a very entertaining entertainer. But when it comes down to in-ring, I don't think Joe could go toe-to-toe with me.
Interesting. No, we always give you props for your talent, you know, your strength. You know, you're always in these hard matches. Unfinished business with Moose, obviously TNA X Division champion. Is that a belt you'd be interested in? And obviously, look, Moose has that belt right now. It's an interesting one and something that we'd love to see maybe.
No, it's also another option too, because option C is always there as the X Division champion, and that's another way to the world title. But that division on its own, I've worked in that division before with other talents. That's something I would love to go back to at some point too. But right now, my focus is on Josh and then eventually getting the world title. But if the X Division title does kind of pop in there at some point for an opportunity, then so be it. I wouldn't mind being a Triple Crown champion.
Yeah, look, that's something that needs to happen, and I hope it is something that will happen. We speak of Hall of Fame. You're going to be a future Hall of Famer. There's no doubt about it. But
oh, stop. No.
It's happening. Listen, it's going to be another 20, 30 years because you've got so many years in the ring. But let's talk Rhino. I teared up watching Rhino talk about that Hall of Fame speech. Obviously, look, Rhino's a guy that you know you have to give props to. Strong like yourself. He's a bull, you know, great in-ring wrestler. But look, what a guy Rhino is.
No, and I was very happy for him and long overdue for him, especially what he's done in TNA and over his wrestling career across all other promotions as well, and the body of work that he is. And it's kind of crazy that Rhino I can call a friend. And I know we've had our scuffles in the past, but to just be able to go to him for advice and just ideas, and then even working with him on independence or working with him at TNA. It's just I've learned a lot from him, and it's really cool that like this big guy is my friend.
Yeah, he's a great guy. And like, Steve, would you be very kind of observant with the indie scene in general? Look, there's a lot of great wrestlers out there today, free agents that we'd love to see in TNA. Is there any wrestlers you'd like to mention, perhaps that you might be a big fan of and you'd love to see them come over to TNA and wrestle?
Uh it's kind of hard because everybody's kind of everywhere right now. Everybody's popping up everywhere, whether it's TNA, MLW, AEW. People are doing spottings or NXT and stuff like that. So especially with the ID now. So out of talents, no, I can think of people on my own roster that are young, up and coming talents that I know I would love to work with, or I'm intrigued to see what they go on singles or from a tag team perspective. But like a Leon Slater, Jason Hotch, Ace Austin, he's a guy that's going to break out soon, and then even a Danny Luna from Spitfire in our tag team. She reminds me a lot of my wife in ways of that technical grittiness. So it's just fun to watch, and I have my ways of watching certain things that I like, and those are people that I kind of been watching that are the young talent coming up that I enjoy.
Definitely. We actually have Danny Luna here in Cork, Ireland. She's here in December for a show, so we're looking forward to that. But it's an exciting time to be a wrestling fan. And look, yet again, TNA, we talk TNA Plus. Why should the Irish fans, why should all European fans get TNA Plus? Because look, it's obviously essential.
Everything is on the TNA app. If you get the TNA Plus app, you get pay-per-views, the PLEs, television weekly, Around the Ring with Gia Miller, all the backstage content, and even all the content from the past in TNA, whether you want to go back and watch from the very beginning or watch this past year and watching me kick the crap out of Josh Alexander. You can choose what you want.
You really, really hate Josh, don't you?
It's a love-hate.
Well, we're looking forward to many more battles in due course. But listen, we yet again we talk that young roster, okay? It's you know what I mean? It's I hate saying this because you're so young, but like you're one of the guys that have been there pretty much a long time, right? It's basically one of these teams where you give a voice to the young wrestlers today. But if you were to speak to a younger you of today, what would you say to that guy? Because we know it's a grueling business. Like the business in wrestling, first of all, Steve, it's ruthless. You're on the road a lot. There's a lot of traveling, such and such. But would you change much? What would you say to a young 20-year-old Steve Maclin?
What I was told every day was to be patient, and I would tell my younger self, be patient. It's not a sprint, it's a marathon. And there could be something you're doing in one company that molds into something else in another company, and it just helps you build along in your body of work going into wherever you end up. So right now isn't the end all be all. This isn't the end game kind of thing. Just stick to your game, stick to your patience, learn, pick up what you can, and just keep moving forward. If that makes sense.
No, it does. And like we're seeing more people coming through the schools today, which is great. Obviously, it's down to you guys on TV. Like we're watching it, we're observing. Great pay-per-views. Obviously, a lot of props goes to you guys, but it's great to see the young kids today, like 15, 14, 16 up. They want to get into wrestling. They want to use it as a career, as something that will move them forward in life. It's like a big family wrestling, isn't it? Because we go to shows, Steve, and we're all like a big family. We're like kids again. And we want to get autographs. We want to, get pictures. It's just such a really good place to be in.
No, wrestling right now is, I think, at an all-time high. Even from when I was a kid in the Attitude Era and the Monday Night Wars, this is like different. And it's like, I don't know how wrestling fans can be wrestling fans just because there is so much to watch. You have so many different talents and so many different companies, but that's also a very cool thing because now you're just not one team anymore. You're everywhere. Whatever you are for football with us, I like even the NFL for me, for American football. I have my certain players now, not just my New York Giants that I love. I like watching certain players, and it's the same thing in wrestling. I like certain wrestlers that I like to watch, and I'm sure fans have that the same way.
Definitely. And like we yet again, we speak of, the way teams progress and stuff. Like your career today has been good, there's not been many injuries, which is good. You look after yourself, but
knock on wood.
Yeah, well, tip wood and long may it last. But obviously, what would your weekly routine be like? Because we had a couple of fans asking us, what way do you train? What way do you eat? Obviously, you have to look after yourself in this game, Steve.
So actually, I just got done with a massage, so go figure. I just got done working out before. Today was kind of a back and chest day mix just because I go off of how my body feels. The older I'm getting, the more I'm finding I have to stretch more. I have to be more flexible, but don't overstretch. And it's just this constant game of finding what works for me. I've dropped down about 15 pounds, so I'm a lot lighter now too than I was a year or two ago, just because I'm getting older and being a little bit leaner and a little bit more mobile lets me go a little bit better. Carrying around 240 pounds is very hard to do sometimes. But I don't know. Just you got to find what works for you and your body.
Yeah, no, I agree, and it's good valuable information from a top athlete. Aaron wants to know what's your thoughts on Nic Nemeth. Look, obviously he is the world champion. We did mention him at the start, but obviously, look, he's a guy that we all know around the world, and it'd be nice for you, Steve, to beat him for that belt. I think that'd be a great match, and it's going to happen in due course. But obviously, he's a big deal in TNA right now.
No, I think it would be a great that would be the rematch of rematches that I would want right now after I'm done with Josh too, if it was to go for the world title, especially if that was at Genesis. But for what he has going on right now and what he's been doing for TNA is leaps and above bounds of just helping this brand become bigger off of what he has done with his body of work in the past. So he's a good locker room leader. He shows up, he shows out, he's the show off. So it's just great to have him around and learn from him and pick up from him, and then also hopefully again get a rematch down the road.
Definitely.
Just gotta watch out for JBL though. I don't know what's going on there.
Yeah, well, that was a question I was going to get to. We had Rob O'Brien asking about JBL. Obviously, he's turning up everywhere, clotheslining everybody. But listen, he looks $1 million, and I'd love to see JBL wrestle in TNA. That'd be something that'd be epic.
If he wants to go down that road, I would love to have that fight.
Oh, it'd be nice, my man. And like he's an all-time great, like, you know what I mean? So I think Steve Maclin versus JBL is a match that the fans would love to see, especially on pay-per-view.
We'll see.
Oh, I love it. Many other questions. We'll get one or two more quickly in. Obviously, we had Steve was asking, fellow Steve, he said, the Hardy Boyz, obviously, look, being a WWE fan back in the day when we were all watching the Attitude Era, what's it like having the Hardy Boyz around the locker room and around the arenas?
It's so awesome. Their music kicks in, and it's just like a little bit of my teenage years and my being a kid again is there. But I'll have to say this past weekend, one of my buddies I served with, Chance, and he had his boys with him. His sons were with him, the three of them. And Matt and Jeff just got out of the ring, and I went up to Matt. I was like, hey, can you just do me one gigantic favor? I was like, my buddy Chance is here with his kids. I served with them. I was like, they are dying to meet you. So both of them just came out of the ring, just got their butts kicked with a Singapore cane and I think a table. I'm not too sure. And they came over, introduced themselves, and Jeff gave armbands away to the kids. And it made their day, and it made my day because that's what we do this for. And when those little things that kind of show out that way. So to have them around, and that's like probably one of my fondest memories now of obviously being a fan of them, but then having that moment backstage was something cool.
Definitely. No, I agree that they're so real, and you know what I mean? We're grateful that they're still on the screens, and that's what it's all about. Last question. This is from Vinny. He wants to know, look, what was your main goal when you got into wrestling? What was that ultimate goal, and have you achieved it yet?
To get on television, to have an action figure, and be in a video game. That was my ultimate goal because that was what I wanted to do as a kid. But then as I got into the business, I wanted to make a living of this. I want to know every bit of this business. And then I also just want to be able to ride out into the sunset peacefully and know that I gave everything that I had.
Oh, I love it. Steve, listen, it's a pleasure as always. I love speaking to you. We'll get you over to Ireland soon. There's a few drinks on us. I always say that, but look, the cliche is, I promise you, when you're here, you're going to be looked after. And listen, we wish you a great year, my man. Thank you.
Appreciate it, Jerry. Appreciate the time.